Assalamu alaikum, guys. Right now, we're raising money for the homeless brothers and sisters in Gaza due to the bombings. They've lost their houses. They need food, they need supplies, they need essentials. And there is a team on the ground on behalf of the charity Humanity Care Relief that are distributing aid in the middle of the war zone. So please donate as generously as possible at the link below so we can get the aid to those who are in need of it ASAP.
And you Muslim, you hear some kafir say, worship me the way you worship Allah. And that doesn't hurt you, but you don't get offended when Allah gets attacked.
Here we've got a kafir guy who's saying degrading comments about Muslims and about Islam and about Allah. Here you got a guy trying to tell you guys, why are you guys still following this guy? And you're getting onto him.
I'm not saying that you love this person more than Allah, but you ask yourself now, it's a very dangerous situation for you. Does that make sense?
Before we get into it, as you can see, obviously we've got the chai with my Bhai merch as well. I think this is new, right? Have we had the mugs before? Oops. I don't think they're on the website. I don't think so. But by the time this comes out, they will be. But I think this is the first time we're showing the Chambai mugs. So you got double-sided. And obviously you got the tumblers and the water bottles as well. Just click the link below if you'd like to check those out. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to another episode of Chai with my Bhai. On today's episode, we have Brother Guled and Brother Imran. Give salam to the people.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And obviously, as always, we've got the Chambai merch on the set. Where did the one that was there go? Oh, it's there. Shall I put it back up there or are you going to knock it down again?
No.
And as always, if you want to get your Chambai merch, you can do so clicking the link in the description or in the comments, provided, of course, that Jimmy, puts it in.
I just want to say something, yeah?
Go for it.
So, I got an email a few months ago on the sessions. I think it was a sister.
So read it out.
She emailed it. You read it? You got it?
Yeah, then I can read it out right now if you want.
Read it out right now.
I was actually reading it earlier today.
Really?
Someone mentioned
How
it.
do you know about it?
See, someone mentioned it.
Okay, no, I read it. It's been hit for a couple months back, right? Right, Jimmy? Jimmy. Just bleep out his name every time the sister mentions his name.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Firstly, I want to say barakallahu feekum, the whole Nasiha Sessions team, for the phenomenal job you are doing. I'm writing this email just as a small nasiha on something that has upset me while watching some of the videos, and that is the indirects at Jimmy. I think it needs to stop. The brother does an amazing job and is very humble, and I really hate how he is publicly commented on by some Nasiha Sessions members. A comment was made by a brother recently on a ride-out video saying that there is a possible vacancy for Jimmy's role. I think this has to stop. If you think he's not doing a good job, advise him privately, not in front of the cameras and thousands of viewers. And if Jimmy happens to read this, then please know that there are plenty of us out there who have seen how you've grown, especially since beep, and are very proud and also appreciate your work. Barakallahu feekum. Now, Jimmy, how did that make you feel when you read that email? Made you feel nice.
Do you want to speak to the mic?
Yeah, you're not in the shot anyway. Just put on a voice, don't it?
Yeah, it made me feel nice, alhamdulillah. But I think the sister misunderstood it. There's like a banter vibe between the brothers, alhamdulillah. So it's just jokes and that.
Yeah, it's not like, we've got a gun to his head or anything.
Yeah, it's nothing like that. We're all good, bro. Oh, damn.
Yeah. Keep talking.
Yeah, so.
I'm joking.
But yeah, alhamdulillah. It's a good vibe, innit? To be honest. It's not like they're, oppressing me.
Yeah, no, alhamdulillah. But, if anyone would like to apply, send us your CV, and you never know. You might be able to be the new Jimmy Jeffrey.
It's actually, well, it's actually nice, people care about people, innit?
No, it's true. It's true.
It can't come across. Obviously, I understand the banter is between us.
Yeah.
But
the fact that there's a sister out there,
they don't understand the way Jimmy does banter by turning up late. That's his banter. His banter is like, listen, I'm gonna refuse to put the link in. Like, you were talking about, put the link in the bio, and then, that's his banter. But obviously, the sister don't see the other side of the banter. But it's nice that someone cares. We actually had a message like that about Sammy a couple of years back. I think I was making some jokes about Sammy, not mocking or but I think someone was like, Sammy's a hard worker, leave him alone. You know
Oh,
them
no, got
ones? Remember? Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. It happens every now and again. And that person, I like it, man. It shows.
What, any emails about me? Oh, chill. chill. Beep. No, but I mean, Baka, why you guys getting onto him?
No, what do you mean? Like, you're the guy that gets onto people?
Oh, yeah, true. What about Guled? Must have had loads of emails about Guled.
We have, yeah. No, we'll bleep it, but we can't cut.
Okay, anyway, let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is a quite
But
serious topic.
do you think that we should say something nice about Jimmy and the rest of the team? Since we do make people see the jokes, the banter side, should we now?
Yeah, everyone's nice. So today's episode, I'm joking. Sure, go ahead. Since you've taken the initiative.
Yeah, no, I've said it before and I've said it privately. Would like to say publicly, man. I think right, the brothers that we have are a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm really scared when I say these things because there's obviously improvements that we will have to make. But wallah, it's a blessing. You know, we have a team that really is there's two sides of the team that you guys see. Is the side that's on the camera, you know, the knowledge college teachers, the guys on the CS sessions. And then there's the behind the scenes team. Man like Taha, Jimmy, Johnny, Sammy, a couple others. You know what I'm saying? It's a blessing. Alhamdulillah, new addition to the team.
Beeped that before, So today's topic is quite a serious one, which is why obviously, we've got Brother Guled on the show. He comes on for the serious topics. Today's topic, which we alluded to in the relationship goals that was released. Is this going to be released after or before
I
relationship
have
goals?
no idea.
Whichever it's going to be. And that is the topic of hijrah. Why do you look so confused?
I thought it was the K-pop one.
Or is this the K-pop one?
Yeah.
I thought we were doing hijrah one.
No, I didn't K-pop one.
Oh, okay, sorry. Let's start that again.
I keep it there.
Today's topic is not that serious, which is why we've got Guled.
It's very sincere.
Because he comes on the shows that aren't serious. I was making a joke.
Yeah.
Today's topic is on the issue of K-pop. And recently, one guy from one guy who's part of K-pop, is K-pop K-pop's a genre.
He's actually from K-hip hop.
Okay, so one guy from K-hip hop, which is a K-pop brand, came out and said some nasty things about the religion of Islam, right? Something along the lines of, worship me the way you worship Allah.
Yeah.
Something about Arab Muslims take off their hijab and
Wear bikinis.
wear bikinis for me, or something along those lines. And, you came out and you did a little video in Urdu, in Arabic. Did you do one in Arabic?
Mm-hmm.
Arabic, and also in Somali. So you come in the Trinity there. All three of the main languages.
I'll say hat trick instead of Trinity.
Hat trick instead of Trinity. Yeah, sure, no problem. And you got quite a lot of backlash. There was a lot of support, but also quite a lot of backlash, which is very surprising. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I was actually very surprised that here we got a kafir guy who's saying degrading comments about Muslims and about Islam and about Allah. And here you got a guy trying to tell you guys, why are you guys still following this guy? Why are you guys, so on and so forth. And you're getting onto him. Let's just say, even if the way he said it, you didn't like it, you didn't like the language he chose, whatever. But the message here, compared to what's happening here, I don't know, for me, it was just a bit of a... So for you, when you made that video, first of all, what was going through your mind and why on earth did you choose to speak in 3 different languages for this particular video?
Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. So, it was very shocking, wallahi. But to be honest, I wasn't surprised at the backlash. I wasn't surprised at the backlash because, there are many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that told us that the Ummah is going to return back to idol worship. That, not entirely, of course, but huge factions of this Ummah is going to return back to idolatry, to paganism, to worshipping gods besides Allah. The Prophet ﷺ even told us to the extent where people will return back to worshipping Allat wal Uzza. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تقوم الساعة. The hour will not strike حتى تعبد أو يعبد اللات والعزى, or كما قال, until Lat and Uzza, which were 2 gods at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, statues that people worshipped until they are worshipped again. It's shocking because Allat al-Uzza mentioned in the Quran, Allah said, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى. Allah mentioned these two gods worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. But the Prophet ﷺ saying they will come back. So it's more shocking that a person who's from the Muslim nation will one day resort back to not just idol worship, but worshipping the idols that are actually mentioned in the Quran. And they'll find an excuse for it. Okay? And I've mentioned this many times, that we've seen hints of this with regards to the whole Nike issue. Nike is a goddess that was worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People take very light of this, wearing clothes and items that say Nike on there, and then Nike releases their series of clothes that actually mention the goddess. Does that make sense as well? Clearly showing that this is the goddess that we're trying to depict. So all of this, and people make very light of it. So we've seen that, number one, idolatry is going to come back, and number two, we've seen people leaning towards idolatry and taking shirks in a very, very lackadaisical way. Does that make sense? So it didn't surprise me the way people reacted. Unfortunately, I expected it. I knew with certainty that people were going to be very upset. You know why? Because what people don't realize is that in their fandom, in their love for these stars that they follow, that love can very easily become worship, because worship is an act of love. In fact, it's one half of La ilaha illallah is love. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said that from people there are those that take others as gods besides Allah, that take others as equals besides Allah in love. In love. Does that make sense? They love things the way that they love Allah. So people are three types. There are those that take someone, with regards to this, there are those that love someone the way they love Allah. There are those that love someone more than they love Allah, and that's worse. And there are those that love others and don't even love Allah, and they're the worst of the worst. All three are mushriks. All three are kuffar. All three left Islam. Does that make sense? Because love, the special kind of love, the complete love, can only be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one before Him. Does that make sense? So some people, it's disbelief to love someone equal to Allah. Now, there are those who love other things more than Allah. Then there are those that love things and don't even love Allah. And they're the worst. And it's problematic because we have to ask ourselves, where do we fall in that? Do we love anything equal to Allah? And the proof is in the pudding. As Imam Al-Qurtubi said, لِسَانُ الْحَالِ أَبْلَغُ مِنَ اللِّسَانِ الْمَقَالِ. The actions speak louder than words. Claim to love Allah, but you don't get upset when a K-pop artist disrespects Allah. He says, worship me the way you worship Allah. Allah's greatest right to be worshipped alone. Something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, that the earth and the sky, Allah said, تَكَادُ السَّمَاوَاتِ يَتَفَطَّرْنَ. The sky, it's about to rip. It's about to rip. Okay? And the earth is about to split and the mountains are about to come crashing down. Why? Because they say Allah has a son. So the earth, the world, the planet we're on wants to self-destruct because it hears people say Allah has a son. And you Muslim, you hear some kafir say, worship me the way you worship Allah. And that doesn't hurt you. That doesn't offend you. But when someone attacks him and say this kafir has claimed worship for himself, you get offended at when your famous star gets attacked, or when your K-pop stars get attacked, but you don't get offended when Allah gets attacked. I'm not saying that you love this person more than Allah, but you ask yourself now, it's a very dangerous situation for you. Does that make sense?
It reminds me of a situation that happened recently where there was someone who was, saying some inflammatory comments about Palestine, and then his house got run up on, and people went to his house, attacked him, which was wrong. Very, you never take things into your own hands. But that same individual had been saying so much stuff about Allah, about the Prophet, about Isa, about the deen of Islam that was so disgusting before that, but you never saw a reaction like that. Not to downplay what's happening in Palestine is a big issue. It's a huge problem. It's oppression, it's dhulm, and they're going to get what's coming for them, inshallah. Allah's promise is true. The Muslims we will get victory in the end, inshallah. But the point that I'm making is that you got more angry when people were being when the rights of people were being oppressed than you were when the rights of Allah being oppressed. And another way to look at it is, for example, if I said to you, if you wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, I'll give you £1 million. What you have to do is make sure you wake up. You're going to set so many alarms. You're going to tell your family members. You're going to do whatever you can to make sure that you wake up. If I told you,
Or
you're
an example that's a bit more, I think your favorite K-pop stars are going to turn up at 4 a.m. in the morning.
4 a.m. in the morning and you're going to get to go see them live. Or whatever it is, you might have been to cars, whatever it is. Just imagine the one thing you've always wanted in this life. So you're told if you wake up at 4 a.m., you'll be able to get it. But yet, we can't wake up for Fajr. And as we know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the 2 rak'ah before Fajr are better than everything in the world, than the world and everything within it. So you're giving up something which is less for something which is more. And it just goes to show that the reality is you can say, it's very easy to say, I love Allah more than anyone else. But at the end of the day, as you said, the proof is in the pudding. Actions speak louder than words. And that's why saying it now is easy. But when it comes down to it...
And you know what's scary is that the context of this discussion is around something that's clear-cut disbelief. It's not, it's shocking. I'm from a generation where the problem of the ummah was music and free mixing. Does that make sense? Tawheed wasn't like, there's always improvements of Tawheed and whatnot, and even if a person's doing some kind of shirk, if you explain it to him, they will usually accept it. I'm talking about in the West, not back home. But now, literally, bro, we're having to explain to people the basic tenets of your religion, like worship Allah alone, bro. Don't worship anyone else besides Him. What people don't understand is that someone might say, look, I'm listening to the music, but I'm not worshipping Him. So how am I a disbeliever? I don't take Him as a God. What you don't understand is that there are many ways a person can fall into kufr. One of the ways a person falls into kufr is by being pleased with kufr. They say, الرضا بالكفر كفر. الرضا بالكفر كفر. Being pleased with disbelief is disbelief. What's the evidence for that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَقَدْ نَزَّلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الْكِتَابِ أَنْ إِذَا سَمِعْتُمْ آيات الله يكفر بها ويستهزأ بها فلا تقعدوا معهم حتى يخوضوا في حديث غيره. Allah said that it's already been revealed to you that when Allah's verses are being disbelieved or mocked, don't be there. Don't listen to it. If you do, إِنَّكُمْ إِذَا مِثْلُهُمْ, you're gonna be just like them now. You're gonna be a kafir like them now. Why? Because when I'm there, when kufr is being said, and I'm willingly there, I'm pleased, I'm listening to the song, I'm enjoying it, I'm liking, I'm dropping comments, I'm appreciating this person, this pop star. Does that make sense? This is in and within itself disbelief. Does that make sense? Allah said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَامِعُ الْمُنَافِقِينَ وَالْكَافِرِينَ فِي جَهَنَّمَ جَمِيعًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather the disbelievers and the hypocrites together in the fire. Who are the hypocrites? The ones who pretended to be Muslim but they were disbelievers. Does that make sense? Now, to the point where the Prophet ﷺ said that if a person is in a place where evil is taking place and he's not pleased with it, then he has no sin on him. A person may not be in a place where the evil is taking place, but he is pleased with that evil that's taking place, even though he's not present, he will what? He'll have the sin in it. So, as in, you can't say you're not pleased with this music. You're going to really struggle to say that. Well, I believe a lot of these guys, they are pleased with the music. They enjoy the song. Okay, you say, it was just one K-pop artist. The Muslim community attacked him on Twitter. It's not just the K-pop artist. It's K-pop in general. You know why? Because every artist is called a what? Every K-pop artist is called what?
Idol.
An idol.
Like pop idol.
Yeah, but they're actually called idols. Like, who is your idol? And they will say, this is my K-pop idol. So, whether you say he's my idol or not, you are following an idol. You're loving an idol. Allahu Akbar. Loving an idol besides Allah is this.
Just a quick question, yeah. Generally, does idol have two meanings?
Idol.
Like if someone says that person is my idol, do they mean I worship them, or do they mean I look up to them, like my role model?
So that's my point.
I'm just asking.
So the word idol, we look at what the word means. That's the thing with Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Islam teaches you to stay away from words, to stay away from meanings. There was a companion who came to the Prophet ﷺ one time and he said, "Ma sha Allahu wa shi'ta." He said, whatever you will and Allah wills. Was that companion comparing Allah's will and the Prophet's will? Was he trying to say Was he intentionally? Because he would have been a kafir. Allah's will and the Prophet's will is not the same. So when he said Masha Allahu wa shi'ta, your will and Allah's will, and in the Arabic, when you say it like that, you're trying to connect the wills together. The waw, al-atf, it brings things together. It separates things as well in a way, but it also connects things together. Does that make sense? So it's like he was trying to say the Prophet's will and Allah's will was the same. That's the wording that was used. When you look at the words he used, that's what he said. But did he mean that? He couldn't have meant that. Why? Because he would have been a disbeliever. He wouldn't have been a companion anymore, right? But the Prophet stopped him. The Prophet said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, أَجَعَلْتَنِي نِدًّا لِلَّهِ أو كما قال, something like that. The Prophet said, have you made me equal to Allah? أَجَعَلْتَنِي نِدًّا لِلَّهِ أو كما قال, have you made me equal to Allah? Does that make sense? قُلْ مَا شاء الله ثُمَّ مَا شِئْتَ أو كما قال, say whatever Allah wills, and then after Allah's will, what you will, meaning separate wills. Does that make sense? So we look at what the wording is, and this is many times done. The Prophet ﷺ would stop people on their words. So my point is that the word idol, what does it mean? We're not talking about how you use it or how you may use it. The word idol is something that is worshipped besides Allah. And you have to understand there's a reason why shaitan does this. Like there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that shaitan will come and people will start. The Prophet ﷺ said that alcohol will start being drunk, and shaitan will cause you and affect you to start calling things by other than their names. And this is one of the tricks that shaitan does, that he gives things a new meaning. He tries to, for example, a person is drinking alcohol. What do they call it? They call it juice. A person's selling drugs. They say, I sell food, right? A man's fornicating with a woman. He says, I slept with her. Sounds so innocent. We made love. What's wrong? I made love. You fornicated, bro. Does that make sense? A guy who's a sodomite, who penetrates a man in his anus, in his rectum. Does that make sense? He says, I'm gay. I'm happy. That's what it, like, the words get changed to mean certain things. But sometimes words that are bad, their meaning might become lost. And sometimes words that are good, they may take on a bad meaning. Does that make sense? So this is one of the situations where you're trying to change the word, but this is what it means. Now you may say, oh, but for me it means look up, this, that, and the other. But my thing is, look at how you're behaving. Number one, the word is there, which is actually a God besides Allah. Number one. Number two, you're loving him and you're putting him before the religion. In the context of them insulting the religion. Do you know to say I'm an idol? To even for you to, how can you follow a guy that calls himself an idol? A word that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he hates this. Allah hates idolatry. Allah hates idols. Allah hates idols. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions that the things that you worshipped, the people who worship gods besides Allah and the gods that they worshipped are going to be in the hellfire together. You have this guy clearly coming with the audacity to say, worship me the way you worship Allah.
The thing is, though, as well, it's just someone might say it's just this individual, but it's the whole, like, organization is built up for you to have that attachment to what do you call it, each individual, whichever group or whichever band a person selects. They've designed them, like, these people have gone through 10 years worth of training in terms of physically, in terms of getting surgery done, in terms of like jaw reconstruction when they don't need it, in terms of language, like the words that they use, in terms of manners. Like, these guys are products that, like, what people are seeing when a group comes out at the end, that's like 10 years worth of designing, building, and that's why they choose them from young age as well. So it's like this person is the final product. So when he comes out, it's like, that's not natural. These individuals were sculptured or made into this, like, physically, that's through surgery, and also in terms of mannerisms, in terms of the words that they use, in terms of, okay, like, this person matches with this person, in terms of personalities, like, they, you know, how they force them to live in tight confined spaces. So like it's also, by the time that they come out, a person is like, oh wow, like, how am I it should like, when a person, like, people are shocked, like, how can you easily get attached, but it's, the thing is, they've designed it in, like, they've marketed them in the best way possible.
They've constructed them in a way to appeal to you, to make you fall in love with them.
Like, each person's got a specific personality, character, so it's vast. So you may not be suitable for that one, but this guy's suitable for you because, you know, whatever it is. So it's all designed. And then
to the point where, if you remember, they don't allow them to have relationships because if they have a relationship, then the fans will feel like
No, the
They
one
don't have a chance
yeah, the
with
one
them.
that have that possibility of, I still have some sort of
Hope to be
yeah,
his
like
man
this is for
or to
me,
be
or
his
it's
woman.
mine, or whatever it
Does that
is,
make
or
sense?
she's mine. And
So look
stuff
at that.
like
So they're engineering you to love
Yeah,
them.
of course,
Do you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like, this, look how deep that is. Like, they won't allow these K-pop stars to have relationships.
Of course.
They're not allowed to have relationships, or at least publicly, because they need to build a image of the fan. The fan has to believe like that they may love you, that you may be with, that one day you may marry them. That's how they plot and plan it behind.
Of
Does
course,
that make
of course,
sense?
of course.
So they're trying to build, and then they say I do this, that, and use Islamic words to appeal to you. And
Yeah, to
Well-
be international and I think even one of the, I think the main biggest one, I think, is obviously, I think they gave a speech at the UN council, like the connection. But again, not only that, is the country smart as well. They use them as a tool, as in, because obviously they're promoting their culture, just like America knows that American products promote America, so vice versa as well. So it's a thing of a person just to be that heedless. Like, for example, like right now, it reminds me of that Edward Snowden guy. He got banned because he leaked information in terms of the military and stuff like that, and the spying and what goes on and stuff like that. All over information. So the importance of information, how it's gathered and being gathered in people, and how they're being monitored and stuff like that. So these guys already know that as well. So when they putting these people out, they know, okay, this is like what they talk about is like general. Okay, what's popular is positivity. That's what's making people feel positive about themselves. That's popular. They've never been involved in any controversy, like topics and stuff like that. So they know, like, the market. They know, okay, what's going to excel, what's international. And it's only, I think, the last couple of years that they actually exposed themselves to coming to America, coming to UK and stuff like that. But they've already taken over from, in terms of the whole of East and stuff like that. So, and it's not just music, by the way. Like, they want you to know who these people are. So they do documentaries behind the scenes. You get to know who this person is, the character, and build. So you've built that attachment to them. So if a person now, as you mentioned before, the importance of love and how we should love Allah, but Allah, the deen and everything first. If a person's not learning about who Allah is, or not learning about the deen, and their heart's just empty, at the end of the day, your heart is a vessel, and it's just going to be filled with something else, whether it be K-pop, whether it be music, whether it be whatever. It's a vessel that needs to be filled, and obviously the only thing that can fulfill its proper need is the love of Allah. Anything other than that is going to cause a form of punishment to it. So a person needs to think themselves, they're consuming themselves in terms of not just their music, following their lives, following what they like and stuff like that, and daydreaming about it, to the extent forming communities around it and stuff like that. Like they're so strong. Sorry to like, they know, like for example, there's a reason they call themselves army. Like they put army, like they have a hashtag for army, or that's the main one that you usually see trending. But each one has its own hashtag. So you're part of the community. You're part of some sort of organization. You're part of some sort of community. You're part of, so you feel some sort of ummah. You want to say like that. They're building their own thing. So well,
Just to rewind you said something and it shocked me. I was like, raw. Regarding the UN.
yeah.
So the guys that are supposed to be, maintaining order around the world, are supposed to be helping in Palestine, what's going on. They're meant to be stopping crimes happening and this and that, whatnot. They're spending their time getting these pop artists to come and give speeches, and sitting there listening to them give speeches.
Because they know the following that they have, to use them to promote, I think what they were promoting, pollution or something like that. Something, if I remember, Allah Alam, I could be wrong.
But that's a joke.
But they know, okay, you know what it is? They know, okay, the following that these guys is ridiculous. I don't even know the number. But we can use them in promoting this message. Like they know it's
you know what's shocking about that is that tells you so much. Like, back in the days, a couple 100 years ago, I'm not even talking about Muslim world. I'm talking about the non-Muslim world. A person of influence would be a person, a scientist, a physicist, a mathematician, perhaps maybe even a philosopher, even though philosophy is batil, but a businessman, a general in the army. Now, I mean, the average youngster, How many scientists does he know? How many Nobel Prize winners does he know? How many contributors towards the world? As in, you have to understand these musicians don't contribute anything to the world.
You know, it's funny, yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Mm.
They asked, I think it was in Korea, South Korea, whatever. A group of like people on the road, like, would you like youngsters? Would you want to be in the future? I think from the top 5, 2 of those was a YouTuber and a K-pop artist.
Look at that. And you know what's sad about that is that just shows, number one, the reality of the world. When the Prophet ﷺ said, "La ya'ti zamanun," a time will not come except the one that comes after it is going to be worse than the one that came before it. Or kama qal. And Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he explained this in the concept in terms of knowledge. Like every generation, knowledge is going to be less and less and less. Well, I look at the ignorance. Like honestly, the people that are, look at the presidents of the world, like Donald Trump. You know, a guy who talks about touching the vaginas of women, and President Biden, who struggles to string sentences together. Boris Johnson, who literally can't throw his hair. Like, look at the House of Commons. You know, when you see them arguing with each other, order, they're just mocking each other, laughing, and literally like a bunch of lads in a playground. David Cameron, what did he do? He had intercourse with an animal in Cambridge University.
Allah,
right?
I don't know.
He got done.
I heard something like that.
Yeah, something like that, and he was a part of. I remember when he was in uni.
Double check. I remember that was circulating. I can't remember if that's true.
Check it out.
want to search that up.
Can you just Google that? Just Google.
A pig or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but my point is that this is the world that we're living in. Does that make sense? Where like these are the rulers of the world. These are people that people want to be. These are contributors. Like now Kanye West was trying to run for president. Like a man that says I am God, and like the world that we're living in is a really bad place right now, man. It's a really ignorant place. Does that make sense? And these are all signs of the hour. Like, people, when will we wake up? When will we wake up? I mean, the most honorable thing to be is a scholar, to be a person of knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. That the people who what? The people who are the highest in station are the people of knowledge. Does that make sense? But I wanted to talk about something. What I want to talk about right now is what I think is one of the main reasons why the Muslim community has become so ignorant with regards to Tawheed, and why they become so lackadaisical. I mean, the kids do have to take some responsibility. They do. They must.
Can I guess why?
Why?
The reason you're going to say? Because the Da'at don't speak on these issues of Tawheed.
Yeah, look
They
what
spend their time talking about stories and feel-good things and politics.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran about Allah said, لولا ينهاهم الربانيون والأحبار عن قولهم الإثم وأكلهم السحت لبئس ما كانوا يصنعون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, why did they not? The scholars, the monks, the priests of the Jews and the Christians, why do their rabbis, why do their monks not prohibit them from speaking evil and consuming things unjustly? Look at this. لَبِئْسَ مَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ. Allah said evil is what they did. They didn't do anything, but their inaction was referred to as an action, as an evil action. Staying silent is an action of evil. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look at this. The Jews, we know they did many things that were wrong, right? They took riba, they took things unjustly. I'm talking about the Banu Israel and the kuffar from amongst them, yeah? They did many things that were wrong, historically speaking, okay? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لولا ينهاهم الربانيون والأحبار. Why did the rabbis are the imams, the scholars of the Jews, والأحبار, they're the monks of the Christians, why did they not stop them? The miskin guy, he doesn't know, he was never taught.
No.
But you had knowledge. Why did you not teach them? You know what's sad? I mean, we got some YouTubers, for example. We got many YouTubers, and there are now many Muslim YouTubers. And the Muslim YouTube scene is a bit funny, because there are YouTubers that are YouTubers. They do pranks and vlogs, and then there are those that are like Islamic. There's the Muslim YouTube scene, which is just Muslims who happen to YouTube, and there are those that Islam is a genre that they talk about. Does that make sense? And usually they discuss things. There's many of them now. There's many of them now. It's popping up everywhere. The Muslim genre ones, yeah. And they talk about these things whenever they pop off. Whenever there's anything scandalous, they discuss this. Do they not? And whenever there's anything going on that affects the Muslim community, they jump on it. I'm interested why people didn't talk about this. Why don't they talk about this? Is it because they're worried about... I'm just asking the question. Are they worried about the fans of these K-pop artists, that they will be upset? Like, it's very easy to talk about what everyone else agrees upon. It's very easy for us to all talk about Palestine because no one's going to attack you. No Muslim's going to attack you for talking about Palestine, right? It's very easy to talk about things that we're all going to agree upon. We all agree upon injustice. We all agree upon oppression. We all agree upon... But things that... Like, as in, it's interesting. Why did this not make it to... on any of the multiple Islamic Muslim YouTube platforms? Okay, YouTubers, we don't expect it from you anyway. Barakallahu feekum. You know, you're not du'at, you're not people of knowledge. You are whatever you are. Does that make sense? Why do not everyone has to discuss it, but why is there not someone addressing this issue? Does that make sense?
Maybe they never heard it.
I agree, but I refuse to believe that there's not a single one. I refuse to believe there's not a single one.
Maybe they thought that
are we
that
the
they weren't
only woke?
qualified to speak up.
Are we the only woke du'at? I'll be honest with you, Akhi. Anyone who
Maybe they didn't feel like they had the knowledge to address it.
So then why are you placing... If you don't feel like you have the knowledge to address the most basic topic of the deen, which is Tawheed and Shirk, then why are you on this platform? And the reality of the matter is that what I want to bring to people's attention is that it's not only that they're not explaining this evil to people, but guess what? They are actually attacking the da'wah of Tawheed. Nowadays, we have this big trend of people attacking the da'wah of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab. Let me tell you something about Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab that my Sheikh told me. He said to me, Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab is a human and the sword can take him. The sword can what? The sword can take him. What does that mean?
You might have heard me laugh there. I wasn't laughing at what he was, because I just find it funny because at the beginning, just before we started, he said, "Listen, guys, can we change the topic? Can we do it on Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab instead?" And now you know, the way he just took the K-pop thing, and I respect it. I'll let you carry on. I just found that the way he did that, it was Allah Barik. It was really props.
It's smooth, isn't it?
It was smooth. It was very smooth.
No, the reality of the matter is that something that my Sheikh said to me about Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab. He said he's a human and the sword can take him. What does that mean? It means Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab can get dropped the way anyone can get dropped. Okay? The only one at the end of the day who's free from all discrepancies, inconsistencies and deficiencies in terms of his message is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala said, every single person's statement is taken or rejected illa sahibu hadha al-qabr, except for the man in this grave. So first thing I want to mention is that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, meaning the Prophet ﷺ, yeah, and he pointed to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. So the first thing I mention is that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is not a man who we live and die by. With all due respect, there are multiple men, when I say multiple, thousands of men, hundreds of thousands, we may even say, scholars that we placed before him. All of the Sahaba, all of the Salaf, and the scholars that came after. We're not saying that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is the top of the food chain when it comes to scholarship or whatnot. But what's interesting is that when people attack Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, we must ask you why, as in, you know, Imam Abu Ayyub al-Sakhtiyani, Imam Abu Zur'at al-Razi, he said the Shia, when they attack the Sahaba, the issue is not Sahaba. When the Shia attack the Sahaba, the issue is not Sahaba. But they want to attack what the Sahaba are carrying. And what the Sahaba carrying? Hadith. Every Sahabi carries a Hadith. When you drop this Sahabi, you drop the Hadith. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated 5,000 narrations. If Abu Hurairah is now a kafir, 5,000 Hadith of the Prophet are lost now. Because you can't take narrations from a kafir, right? So this is something where you want to actually attack you don't want to attack it's not the messenger, it's the message. But you attack the messenger to cover up the message. And you know I can't attack the message. So then you drop the messenger and automatically the message drops with him. People do this with a lot of scholars. So the question I want to ask is like, why did people attack Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab? Why did they attack him? Like, what have you got against him? You say he's an extremist. Terrorism is bred from his da'wah. He misunderstood, like all these things that you say. Like, well, I've got his book right there. If you open it, Kitab Tawheed from beginning to end, it's just verses of the Quran. You know what's so shocking about the book Kitab Tawheed? It's a book where he teaches you about worshipping Allah alone. What's extreme about that? Iyaka na'budu. We worship you alone, Allah. We say in our salah every day, Iyaka na'budu. And he just decided to write a book on that. How to worship Allah alone. And that's what his works are about. His works are all about Iyaka na'budu, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone.
I think
And just to mention, what's shocking about that is that, you know, when he taught the book, to make you understand that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is not a guy who authored and, you know, wrote based on his own understanding. He would just bring verses. His books are him just bringing verses together. Like, for example, the book is about worshipping Allah alone, right? So, you know, when you write a book, you write an introduction at the beginning of the book, right? You would write an introduction, right? Would you not? To explain what the book is about. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab's book doesn't even have an introduction. He says, Kitab Tawheed, the name of the book, the title. Then he says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And then he goes straight into verses where Allah is himself describing Tawheed. And some of the scholars said, why did he not write an introduction? Why did he mention the title of the book, Kitab Tawheed? There's a book about worshipping Allah alone. Say Bismillah and then go into verses where Allah himself explains what Tawheed is. They said out of respect that because the station of this kitab is discussing worshipping Allah alone without any intermediary, he didn't want to make even himself an intermediary in the discussion. So he eradicated himself out of respect for Allah and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself explain to you what it means to connect to him without anyone else. That's the extent to which this Imam was just about. He just wanted to connect you to Allah. That's all it is. What's bad about that? I don't get what's bad about that.
But you know,
sorry. The point is that so when you attack that, a man that all he wanted to do was connect you to Allah, I'm thinking, is your issue Allah? Is that what your issue is? Do you not want us to be connected to Allah? What's your problem?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to and what's quite important to differentiate between is, of course, as you said at the beginning, you know, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he's a great scholar, but at the end of the day, he's a fallible man, and you know, our religion isn't based upon him as an individual. Where the issue is, because someone could turn around and say, for whatever reason, they could have a personal issue with the Shaykh. They say, you know what, I don't want to take from the Shaykh because of this particular issue. It could be any issue. But the question that then is a follow-up from that question is, you'd have to take from him, but do you agree with his beliefs?
No, they don't, but they tell you.
No, this is the real question now, isn't it? Is that, do you agree with what the Shaykh believed when it comes to Tawheed and all these other things? Do you agree with his works? Whether or not you want to take from him as an individual, that's a different story. But are you on the same page? Because, you know, he's passed away now, so his aqeedah is not going to change. So the scholars, as far as I know, I don't know of a single scholar of the Sunnah, but then again, my knowledge is quite limited, so someone correct me, who has critiqued him in terms of his aqeedah, in terms of his beliefs, in terms of his books, his works.
Of the Sunnah?
Of the Sunnah.
Yeah, Muhammad Amir al-San'ani, they bring that. Because Muhammad Amir al-San'ani one time praised him and one time he criticized him, but he wasn't criticizing his belief. He wasn't criticizing his issue of Tawheed. He wasn't. Basically, what happened was that one time Muhammad Amir al-San'ani, he heard about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and he wrote a poem praising him. He said, Salamun ala najdin wa man halla fi najwa wa in kana taslimi fi al-bu'di la yujdi. And he wrote poetry praising Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Then obviously when people started to attack Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, they would attack him, and out of self-defense, they would defend themselves and they would do jihad to defend. Of course, if you're being attacked, you're going to defend yourself, right? Rumors started to spread. In those days, they didn't have CNN, they didn't have Twitter, they didn't have things where things could be verified quickly. Yeah. So if someone was to spread a rumor, it's spread and it's very easy. And even if you were to try to correct it, your message would be months behind because you didn't have satellites to communicate. It was just messages that would be sent. So for example, Muhammad Amir al-San'ani, people came to him and they said to him, oh, this man is killing people, bloodshed, this, that, and the other. So then he took back his praise. And even some scholars questioned whether that was actually that him taking back his praise was actually even authentic. But let's just assume it was
No,
authentic, no
yeah.
problem. But my point is that even if you say Muhammad ibn San'ani criticized Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, we can criticize the person. The belief is the question, because Muhammad
what
ibn
I'm saying.
San'ani actually has a book called Tathhir al-I'tiqad, which is a book that is just like Kitab al-Tawheed.
So
He's saying the same stuff.
yeah, no. So that's what, because he was alive at the same time, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about after the Sheikh passed away.
Yeah.
Like from people who have read his books, read his works, who know the Sheikh, other than the people who have dodgy beliefs. Me personally, I haven't come across any of the scholars. In fact, all I've seen is scholars teach his works, praise his works. So that's what I'm saying. The scholars have. It's almost as if they've agreed upon his beliefs.
Yeah.
His beliefs. Again, I want to be very careful with the words I say, because I don't want to make it seem as if we take him himself as an evidence. You might be able to word it better than.
But I get what you're saying. It all comes back to, for example, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and their source of reference is one. If that makes sense, it's taken from the Quran and Sunnah, and obviously what comes on, but the Quran and Sunnah, and obviously Ijma' and Qiyas, but the source is one, so which is the Quran and Sunnah. That source, anyone who ever came after, took from that source. That's why they say that some scholars, they've never met each other. They weren't even in the same time zone, same century, whatever it is. But wallahi, their words as if they copied and pasted. If you read some of their books, it's literally word for word. If not, it has the same meaning. And Muhammad Abdul Wahhab falls under that. And any other scholar that's to come now and to come after, because at the end of the day, their source is one.
Yeah.
So because their source is one, their statements will be one. It's not going to differ. So that's what you're trying to say, in the sense of that, because Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, what he took from was one, as in the authentic source is one, and those that came before him took from the same source. So his statements match that, and anyone to come after him that takes from the same source is going to match his similar statement. And if they come across his works, are going to be in agreement with him, because at the end of the day they take from the same source. So I think that's what you're trying to say there.
Yeah, and you know what's shocking, that in this day and age now we have people that try to differentiate between Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and Ibn Taymiyyah, and they say we take from Ibn Taymiyyah, but not Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. But what people who really don't understand is that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab got what he brought from Ibn Taymiyyah in the first place. It's so shocking that nowadays we hear people say, I take from Ibn Taymiyyah, not Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Ya akhi, Ibn Taymiyyah, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab doesn't quote scholars unless it's Ibn Taymiyyah. You know, when you go to Kitab Tawheed and he says, وَقَالَ Abul Abbas. Abul Abbas, who? Ibn Taymiyyah. Does that make sense? So he's quoting Ibn Taymiyyah, and the one that he was affected by the most, when he went to, I think it was Basra, and he read the works of Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, that's when he became affected and he benefited from their works. So Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is a product of Ibn Taymiyyah. Of course. So if you say that, then on the flip side,
of course his student Ibn Qayyim.
And Ibn Qayyim, and then, for example, like this man Yasir Qadi was like, if you want to know my position is not the position of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, Imam al-Shawkani, Muhammad ibn San'ani. Muhammad ibn San'ani, the guy who wrote his book exactly. If you was to read Tathhir al-I'tiqad by Muhammad ibn San'ani and Kitab Tawheed by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, they're saying, bro, the exact same thing. Does that make sense? I actually remember that Ustad Abdurrahman taught us Muhammad ibn San'ani's kitab before he taught us Kitab Tawheed.
It's online if anyone wants.
Huh?
It's online for
in fact, we never even studied Kitab Tawheed with Ustad Abdurrahman. I mean, I didn't. We studied Tathhir al-I'tiqad with Ustad Abdurrahman. Does that make sense? So we study as in, and the reason why I mention this is because people think that this concept of Tawheed and worshipping Allah alone and saying shirk is shirk, and the concept that we have today of Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, they think this is a Saudi thing. I'm like, you know how far it is from the truth? I'll tell you how far it is from the truth. Number one, I told you that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he got this from who? Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah is a man who was Kurdish, some say Arab, but anyway, he was originally from Turkey, near where Turkey is. Does that make sense? Came to Damascus. Between Damascus and Egypt, he was not a Saudi. Does that make sense? And Muhammad Abdul Wahhab was influenced by his works. In terms of in the flesh, who Muhammad Abdul Wahhab was influenced by was Muhammad Hayat Sindhi, who was a scholar from where? India.
No.
What? That's right. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab was taught by an Indian man. The da'wah of the Sunnah and the Tawheed was present at the time of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab in India before it was present in the Arabian Peninsula. Even at the time of Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab, he's in the Arabian Peninsula. He's in Najd, and in Yemen you have Muhammad Amir al-San'ani. Does that make sense? So people think that this is a Saudi thing or an Arabian, a Najdi thing. Nah, bro, it's not. It was in India, it was in Yemen. Not just that, we have, subhanAllah al-Azim, we have Siddiq Hassan Khan, who was in India, who was pushing the same da'wah. We have Imam Taqiyuddin al-Hilali, who was a scholar from Morocco, akhi. And then he explained the works of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab himself as well. Why are we saying it's not a Moroccan issue then? Why are we saying it's not a North African thing? Does that make sense? We have, it's all over. It's all over. So we have also in India, Bashir Sahsawani. Like, these are scholars that they never met Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, or they lived in different times. And some of them were there before Muhammad Abdul Wahhab's time. Does that make sense? Like from the previous century, we have Abdurrahman ibn Yahya al-Muallimi, who wrote one of the greatest works on the issue of Tawheed al-Ibadah and explaining what Ilah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyya is, Raf al-Ishtibah. He was a man who's from Yemen. He studied in India. He died in Mecca. That was the end of his life. So this is not a Saudi issue, bro. The only difference is that Saudi Arabia is a country it was a country where they got a funding, basically. It just considered that there was funding for the da'wah. That's the difference. So and people always feel like a bit strange when you mention Saudi. That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying, so if you want to cancel the Saudi Arabia issue and you want to cancel Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, no problem. Like, you know, I have no.
What's the reason? That's the key.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, like honestly, you really have to understand. You really have to understand this concept. Like, I have no care in the world, honestly, for Saudi Arabia. With all due respect, Mecca, Medina, yeah, it's a different story. That's Hijaz. We'll call that Hijaz. Okay, but as a country, like, if anything, I'm Pakistani. Does that make sense? If you really want, you can't even call. I'm not even nationally Pakistani, bro.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
But the issue is when you start cussing out the scholars in the country.
The scholars, do you know what I'm saying?
Scholars for dollars.
But my
this,
point
that,
is,
whatnot.
just cancel, if you want, hypothetically, cancel the Saudi Arabian scholars. Just do it for hypothetically.
Yeah.
Hypothetically, cancel it all.
Okay.
You've got the Jordanian scholars, Sheikh Mashhour.
Kuwaiti scholars.
You've got Sheikh Albani's camp in Jordan. Even put Kuwait to the side, because hypothetically, because they think it's all the same for them, innit?
Okay.
Like Arabian Peninsula, yeah.
Okay.
Just cancel them all if you want.
Okay.
What about Sheikh Albani? He got kicked out of Saudi Arabia.
Mm.
They didn't want him.
Yeah.
And he was on the da'wah of Tawheed.
Mm.
He has books on Tawheed. You've got his student Sheikh Mashhour Hassan. What about Sheikh Taqiyuddin al-Hilali from Morocco? What about the scholars in Hind, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh? What about the ones in Somalia? What about the ones in West Africa? What about the rest of the Islamic world? Does that make sense? Are you gonna read Sheikh Bashir Sahsawani's kitab? Are you gonna read Sheikh Taqiyuddin al-Hilali's works? Are you gonna read Sheikh Mashhour's works? Are you gonna read Sheikh Albani's? Are you gonna read Abdurrahman Yahya al-Muallimi from Yemen's works? Are you going to? No, you're not. You know why? Because the issue is that Muhammad Abdul Wahhab just became an easy person for you to target, because everyone kind of attacked him because he was the most famous. He was the most famous out of them. That's all it is that he was just the most famous out of all of them. Does that make sense? So you can kind of, do you know what I'm saying? Through character assassination, because people don't know these other scholars. They don't know these other scholars. And they're probably never going to know them. They're not going to get to know Taqiyuddin al-Hilali. They're not going to get to know Bashir al-Sahsawani. They're not going to get to know these ulama, these mashayikh. They're not going to get to know them. So, drop Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, the da'wah of Tawheed drops, according to most people. That's their tactic. But if they were sincere, if the problem is with the man and not the message, okay, bring the other scholars that brought that same message. But they don't. You know why? Because the problem is the message.
And on that note, guys, barakallahu feek wa jazakallahu khairan for watching. And of course, if you want to, get your own chama merch, feel free to do so. We've got bottles, we've got cups, we've got tumblers as well, in a variety of different colors. Anyway, see you guys on the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace.
I am one of humanity care relief team in Gaza Strip. We are always in the field to assist the needy people in Gaza, everywhere. See, destruction is everywhere. We are on one of the destroyed houses in Gaza. So, Gaza appeals to you. Gaza appeals to you. Gaza needs your assistance. Lots of homeless now in the street, needs shelters, needs medicine, beds, food, clothes. Please donate as much as you can. Donate to Mr. Imran Mansour in order to be able to continue our services to the homeless people.